What is up, my cutouts cardboard news? Here coming to you with the Iron Beast update April 24th. Yes, I know it's the end of April 24th and many people have already played it, but we're still going to go over ye old patch notes as we do. Also, first things first, new money patch. Money! It comes with a new module. Yes, basically it comes with a ice box, so expect the price of the ice box to drop. It comes with like an RN seal, like a cheat engine, everything. Basically your standard crap. 3 of the gremlins, which I believe are the front-facing mid-tier, like epic shotguns. It's meh, whatever, doesn't matter. All that matters is it comes with a new hardware. That new hardware is called the Gyroscope Spread Stabilizer. So the Gyroscope Spread Stabilizer is, let me see if I can crack this open for you because it's actually in the game. If I were a better streamer, I'd already have had this up, but I didn't. Let's change this to Crossout itself. Unfortunately, ever since they didn't update, problems occurred. Anyway, doesn't matter. My problem's not yours. So, as you can see, this is the Gyroscope. It looks exactly like the Harmonizer. It looks exactly the same. Remember what I told you? I told you they were going to do this. I told you they were going to piecemeal sell us for money. They're all the modules, and they're doing it. So this is a money-only module. You cannot make it. It can only be purchased in a pack, which of course it already is. And if you look on the market, people are trying to get $10 million for it because that's just how it works. The initial ones out there were for $50,000. You know, you get the idea. They're trying to make as much money off this thing as possible because that's how it works, because they exchange real-life United States dollars for it. So, the Gyroscope, which looks exactly like the Harmonizer. What does it do? Well, guess what? You can only have 2 spread stabilizers on your build. It takes a singular energy. Sound familiar so far? It should. But this says your spread after firing is reduced by 40%, and the aim restoration speed is increased by 30%. Some of you guys might be wondering, what the F? Those aren't parameters we've ever seen before. This is spread stability, in case you guys are interested in what spread stability is. So the Harmonizer covers basically your maximum spread, your minimum and your maximum spread. It tightens the entirety of a volley of shots. So let's say you have a shotgun, you're using any shotgun in the game, it will make the entire spread smaller on the screen. That's what that does. This does not do that. Your basic spread stays exactly the same, but when you fire, the bloom is reduced by 40%, and the rate at which the bloom after you fire restores, like tightens back down to normal, is increased by 30%. Again, this is spread stability. That is not as good as the Harmonizer. But the Gyroscope has, of course, a perk. When moving at the speeds of 80 kilometers an hour or higher, it increases the range of all mounted weapons by 10%. Funny story, if you're thinking, well, what's that? What's the difference between that and the Harmonizer, right? The Harmonizer kicks in at low speeds, right? And the Harmonizer says when moving at speeds of 50 kilometers an hour or lower, increases the projectile speed of all mounted weapons by 10%. And of course, the flag simulation doesn't apply to drones, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Here's the thing. I've yet to test this. I know I need to. Everybody get off me. Get off my back. The Blight cabin does something interesting. You might be wondering, what? Why are you bringing up the Blight? Because the Blight says that it increases flamethrower range by 50%. This is similar to the wording on the Gyroscope, which says it increases the range of your weapons by 10%, right? Well, why do I bring this up? Because the way the Blight achieves a 50% range increase on flamethrowers is by increasing projectile velocity by 50%. The time to live of the projectile is the same, but the distance traveled is increased because the projectile velocity is increased. So, if I'm right, that would mean the Gyroscope's perk is the same, is exactly the same as the Harmonizers. It's just worded differently. But I believe, and I've yet to test this, that would be very difficult to test because testing projectile speed at especially when moving 80 kilometers an hour by such a marginal value of 10% is going to be difficult. But I believe that is the case. I truly do believe that the case is that the gyroscope is increasing projectile velocity by 10%. I think they have the exact same perk, just worded differently. That's my take on it. Do I think that this is a phenomenal item? No, not really. But there is an advantage. So the overall idea is the slower you go, the more dead you get. Everyone knows that in Crossout. If you're going 50 kilometers an hour slower, you're dead. But the harmonizer has the advantage of working whenever you cease to move. So let's say you're a scorpion sniper and you're on your light hover and you're dashing in and out of combat. The harmonizer is better because the harmonizer will give you that boost when you need it, which is when you come to a stop right before you fire. Whereas the gyroscope says that you need to be firing while moving. So if you're a Leviathan, then there you go. They change this back, and we will continue on. So basically, if you build Leviathans, if you like Leviathans, the gyroscope will actually work for you, whereas the harmonizer will not. Whereas if you're a standard sniper build, if you're standard using cannons, if you're using scorpions or whatever, you're peak shooting, then the harmonizer is your jam. There you go. That's how it works. Cool. So if you're a levy driver and you're looking for more fast projectiles and you tend to stay above 80 kilometers an hour, there's your new hardware. Just wait for it to come down in price because they're screwing you to the wall right now. Other than that, obviously packs available for sale. Game modes are coming, Ice and Fire, which is currently live. I think the Fire team is just straight up better, by the way, as a minor note, because they have Mastos. The Ice team, meh. But, you basically just shoot each other. It's a fun brawl. Big Scorpion's on its way. I know that doesn't seem very important, but there are achievements based around Big Black Scorpions that can only be done during this brawl, so when it's up, make sure you play it. Spring Mayhem. This is, I think this is one of my favorites. I think Spring Mayhem, if I recall correctly, this is the massive map brawl where everyone is usually playing a scout. Right? You run around as a scout, you shoot down their helicopters. You run as a scout, you shoot down their artillery. You run around as a scout, you shoot down their tanks. So that's coming back, so everyone get ready. But one thing though, this will be the first Spring Mayhem to run after the nerf to machine guns. So machine guns used to be hit scan, and so that's the reason why you use machine guns against everything. You basically just hit scanned everything out of the sky, and you won. So now that this is no longer hit scan, that may be a problem. We'll see how that goes. Moving right along, we have Steel Trooper Brawls after that. This is the one where you are PvE and you're fighting against the Ravagers. The Night Tournament Brawl is going to come back. I've actually never played this one. I actually couldn't tell you. It's a team brawl, preset vehicles with explosive spears. I guess you just run at each other. What the? So the spears now reload upon exploding instead of being destroyed. Okay, neat. I mean, they should probably do that with real spears to make them viable. I take that back. Legends of the Exhibition, where you run around as silly cars like that skateboarding guy with arbiters or something, is up after that. So the changes, look at this. They nerfed, as stated in previous videos as well as previous patch notes. Nerf to every cannon that's not the compiler or whatever the hell the new one is, because obviously these are not for sale anymore for money. So they made them worse because of other reasons other than trying to make you buy the new battle pass. Those other reasons are bullshit. Special parts, Amugi Buff. Its damage, durability, and mass was increased because it sucks. The Tempest, time to overheat, reduced by 33%. So, originally, the Tempest and the Whirl were going to catch huge nerfs. They were going to, obviously, nerf the time to overheat, which they did do. But they also were going to increase the energy cost. They didn't go through with the energy cost increase, but they are hitting the time to overheat. This is a problem. I mean, this definitely hurts those weapons, especially the Whirl. The Tempest, even though I didn't necessarily like the Tempest is the TL autocannon, bullet autocannon. The reason why this is a huge nerf to the Whirl but not the Tempest is because the Whirl actually already had a very, very, very bad time to overheat. That's actually something that you don't really notice because you shove on as many iron seals as you can, usually 2, fused, usually plus, or Quilios, or whatever, or Quilos, however you want to pronounce it. The Tempest had a very large time to overheat base, and so nerfing it by 33% is fine because it just brings it in line with the original Whirl. But we'll get to the Whirl changes later. But yeah, they're nerfing the Tempest because apparently Teal auto cannon's too good. Falco, first of the 2 Unirotors, nerfed acceleration by 15% because it's too good. It's like, ooh-wee, this dang rotor that you guys use is good, and we didn't mean it to be good. We want you to buy more of our stuff. Genesis Microfactory in Buff. Originally, 25% of drones increased. Now it's 50%. They're basically just doubling the efficiency of the Genesis Microfactory, so you don't have to bring as many. Which is just a straight-up buff and is, in general, good. Hardcore, Razorback, Dun Horse, all perks added. They're the exact same as the perks of the engines above them, just at lower rates. So, for example, in this case, reverse speed of 40% instead of 60%. Added a perk of durability of all movement parts by 10% instead of 20%, and 100 meters reduces everything by 7% instead of, I think it's like 10% or something like that. Anyway, epic parts, the adapter. Someone did correct me on my previous video. The R3739 adapter, the durability is increased, and the last shot bonus is now 60% instead of 50%. So what you don't know is it fires 3-round bursts, and if all the shots land, the last shot does 50% more damage. They're increasing it to 60%. I misread it last time and thought it was a nerf. This is, in fact, a buff. 10% buff on the last bullet of the adapter, and what amounts to 72 hit points. 70 hit points is actually huge in that regard. Gungnir moved to cryogenic, and its damage type changed to cryogenic, and it now freezes parts on hit by 1.5%. So moving it to cryogenic and making its damage type cryogenic is a buff, just not a very big one. So many parts, such as weapons, actually all weapons except for melee weapons, don't have any damage resistance on them naturally. Only certain weapons, very specific weapons, like the Avalanche, whose perk is, while it's reloading, gets 30% damage protection. And yes, this is a difference between protection and resistance, but I'm not going to go into that. That's the only way you really get damage resistance. That, and of course an Averter or a what's it called? A Omamori. Those are the only real ways to get damage resistance on your weapons. So if you're using the Gungnir to shoot off weapons, that's not going to really affect you. If you're trying to power into someone's build, this is actually a slight buff. This is actually a larger buff than you might think, only because of the fact that originally the Gungnir and the No Thung both did bullet damage. It meant that things that had bullet resist, which is the majority of heavy builds because everybody's parts have innate bullet resistance, so even engineers gives 10% damage resistance. You're skipping that. You're skipping past the 10% damage resistance and you're dealing full damage because most armor pieces don't have very good thermal armor. Though it does mean that certain things, such as Dawn's Children, parts are going to be actually harder to shoot through because those things have significant energy resistance and thermal and cryo resistance. But it now also freezes parts by 1.5% per bullet, which is, something. It's bad, but it's something. Moving right along. I don't think that's going to be enough for the Gungnir, but who knows? Maybe if you turn into a frame hunter, like trying to shoot through frame, even then, it's only 1.5% per bullet. Anyway, Jotun reload time reduced from 13 seconds to 12 seconds because they say it sucks. I say they're right. It does suck. Jotun sucks. The real problems with the Jotun, in fact, are because of the fact that if you aim it, I do like the fact that you can shoot things next to you. That's great. But because of the way that trajectory works, it's very difficult to aim up with the Jotun to get long distance shots, and it's very difficult to change trajectories from things that are close to you from far to you. I know that that's a minor kabitz, especially considering the incinerator can't fire next to you at all, but still, the howitzer needed some love. Yokai, this is the weapon where you're supposed to intentionally miss your opponent so that the blast radius is supposed to blow apart their parts. You got to shoot the ground. Obviously a dog shit weapon. There are many reasons. I'm not going to go into why it's so dog shit. So durability up, blast radius up, because it sucks. Corvo, damage increased by 18%. Corvo is your revolver, which has 6 shots in it, but the last shot does 200% damage, meaning the last shot is the equivalent of 2 bullets. So it's a it's equivalent of 3 bullets. So it's a 6-shot revolver who's actually holding 8 shots. Woo-wee! It's an 8-shot revolver. And by the way, so they're increasing the damage of the last shot by 50%, but that might sound like a lot, but it's not 50% of what it currently is. It's 50% flat, the number. So it's already giving 200%, it's going to 250%. This is a 25% or so increase to the effectiveness of the last shot of the Corvo, but increased damage by 18% in conjunction with that. So in reality, it's actually getting there. That last shot actually does a fair amount of damage if you're rocking triple Corvo. That's actually something to worry about. Yeah, if you're up against someone with triple Corvo and they're firing their last shot, that would be the equivalent of, I'm just assuming that, yeah, that's actually 18 times 3 times 2.5% damage. That's pretty good. That's 60% minus 6, so that's 54%. Times 2.5. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. That's the equivalent. The last shot there is now the equivalent of firing 3. Like if you have 3 Corvos, the equivalent of firing something like 5.5 Corvos or something. That's actually not terrible. This is actually not terrible. That's a pretty good buff, but still a revolver in a world with it not being hit scan. Pungie, massive buffs, range from connecting to parts increased by over double, active time increased by 20 seconds, recharge time, which is your reload time, doubled, that's a nerf, stake activation time increased from 0.8 to 2.5, which means I believe that it takes longer for it to activate. Stake durability increased from 30 to 100. So they're saying that they want this to make it so you can use fewer pungies on your vehicle, and it can be used as a guarding tool. I've already gone over this. The Pungie dog shit. This makes it worse. Though, I believe... Wait, no, I'm sorry. This active time... I'm sorry, I take it back. The activation time is the damage tick rate. Tick rate was nerfed, so the damage of the Pungie has been completely fucked over. I'm sorry, there we go, yeah. So they fucked over the damage, but they made it so you can make really long lines of things that people will simply ignore. And the durability, nobody was destroying Pungie sticks in the first place, so I don't know why. Blockchain nerf. I misread this earlier. I thought they were removing the perk of the blockchain during Battle Walker and Armored Aircraft. They were not. It still does its bonus damage against those things. But in the Battle Walker mode, there is a innate damage buff that just outright is given to everyone. They're removing the innate damage buff of the blockchain because it was punching through people's builds too quickly. Clarinet Toe nerf. Why? Because it was too good. You assholes wouldn't stop driving around with your cock toes, or your toe cocks, whatever you want to call it. People boosting around with cockpits, getting that 40% damage boost, combining with the Jackie for 15% damage boost, plus the fact that Jackie was legendary, so it was using 3 points of legendary energy, which is the equivalent of, 27% damage or some shit like that. So you get the idea. You get the idea. Clarinet Toe is too strong. So they're nerfing it. Common buff. That's right, they buffed it. So now you get 2% energy for common. So at lower power scores, if you're actually trying to use the Clarinet Toe with, for whatever reason, common energy, you actually get double the amount of energy. Rare stayed the same. Special, epic, legendary, nerf, and nerf. So special loses 1%, epic loses 2%, legendary loses 3% per point. This is a huge nerf because of the fact that everyone uses legendary modules, right? You're using the Cyclops, which is a 3 energy module, right? That was giving you 20-something%. You're using the Yeti, 3 energy, another 20-something%. You're 27%. You are using the Jackie, which is 2 energy, or is it 3 energy? I'm sorry, it's either 2 or 3 energy, plus the fact that it's legendary. All those legendary bonuses were making the Clarinet Toe crack cheeks, and it was cracking cheeks. So they decided to remove 3% off of each energy node for all of those things. You're still going to use the build, it's just not going to do very much damage. I mean, it's just going to do significantly less damage. Ryen nerf. Why? Because it's a turreted cannon, and they got all the money they're going to get from the Ryen, and they're done with it. They're like, whoa, you guys have spent all the money, we're not making very much money off this Ryen anymore. It's also a cannon similar to the other cannons. We're nerfing it. So they're reducing the mass, which is a buff. The durability is being reduced, which is a nerf. The penetration ability is reduced, which is technically a nerf. And the damage on hit when fully charged is reduced by 11%. They're saying, whoa, this is too high efficiency over too great of power score range. They say like a year later after they've made all the money off of the fucking thing. Whirl, time to overheat reduced by 35%. This is a huge damage to the Whirl. Whirl nerf to the Whirl. The Whirl was an S tier gun. by any means. It's very, very good for an epic. To say that it's very, very good for an epic is a little bit of an understatement. So they're bringing it down. We'll see how the whirl functions after they've nerfed the ever-loving nuts off of it. Actually, you know what? Hold on. I own a whirl. Why don't we test it right now? Why don't I go to Ye Olde Exhibition and check a simple whirl build, anything that's available. It doesn't really matter. Yes, I know you cannot see what I am doing, but that's okay. How many Ryen seals are on this thing? Hold on. Yes, I know. One moment. Go back to Crossout. So this thing is rocking 2 fused Ryen seals. That's it. Just 2 fused Ryen seals. I mean, it can't fire forever, but it still can fire enough. So it is nerfed, but it isn't that bad. Though this thing definitely this particular build suffers from not having enough cooldown, in my opinion. But yeah, so the whirl isn't entirely dead. It's just nerfed by a lot because they hate our freedom. That's all. Let's get back to it. Tusk added 50% bonus to ram damage. This is base. Ram damage bonus from the perk is halved, so getting those stacks is not as effective. And ram damage resistance is increased by 10%. This is actually a huge buff, by the way. Remember, if you take 60% as the base damage resistance from collision, to say that you take only 40 damage out of every 100, taking 30 damage out of every 100 is the equivalent of, it seems like you're like, oh, it's just 10%. No. Remember, it's a difference between 40 and 30. This is a 25% increase to your durability from collisions. That's an incredible increase to durability. I know that it says 10, but remember, your base is 60%. You've always had the 60%. You're going to 70%. The difference of that 10% damage resistance from the flat damage of 100 damage, assuming that it's 100, which is your 100%, you started taking only 40. You're going from 40 to 30, and the difference between 40 and 30 is 25%. So that's a 25% durability increase to the Tusk from collision, which means you can hit 25% more crashes into your opponent. And this 50% bonus base ram damage is actually good. This is actually a pretty big buff to the Tusk. I expect to see a couple of people flying around my goddamn games crashing into me, taking out my fucking wheels. Moving right along, big ram buff. Nobody uses it, so nobody cares. But the power penalty was reduced, and the tonnage was increased by 200. The big rams in wheel mode now have maximum turn angles because they hate our freedom, and all big rams now use one group, which is bad because of the fact that we can no longer split groups and perform interesting things. There was a thing where you would have your front legs not moving and your back legs moving to provide better turning, but apparently they don't like us having anything nice. Meat grinders are nerfed. They're increasing the mass of the meat grinder. They're reducing the tonnage that the meat grinder gives. So remember, if they decrease the tonnage and increase the mass, the difference, you add those two together. So you're losing somewhere in the neighborhood of 160 mass off of this, and you're losing a flat 200 off of this. So you're losing about 360 mass per meat grinder. In addition to that, the power penalty has been increased because they don't like you turning very well. But what they've also done is reduce the speed of you turning very well, because turning very well is not something they like. This is Crossout. They hate movement parts. Speaking of hating movement parts, C2 Petrol Nerf and tonnage reduced from 5,000 to 4,100. The C2 Petrol is the quintessential single unirotor in Crossout. It is what came out during the first helicopter battle pass, and it is what most people use, and everybody's catching this nerf because most people use it. It's too good. We are not paying them enough money for their new rotors if they're going to come out with them, so they're making current rotors worse. And this is, of course, the best rotor in the game, so they're reducing it. It's by 15%. They're just making it suck more. Tengu. These are the robotic legs that allow you to dash around. Perk recharge time increased from 4 to 6 seconds. This is originally they were increasing it from 4 to like 12 or some shit like that, but now it's 4 to 6, which means that you can dodge once per cannon shot. though a little less because cannons usually come with reload perks, so they'll be able to hit you eventually. There is a nerf where if you contact the enemy, your Tenu cease to function. This has always been the case, but it's being increased from 2 to 3 seconds. So if someone touches you at any point in time, your Tenu just turns off for 3 seconds. And if they touch you again, stays off. So there's no boosting away. So it's kind of a problem. Basically, they're saying, hey, it's consistent. It's consistently high efficiency. We don't like that. We want inconsistent efficiency. So, Tenu nerfed. Cheetah buffed. Maximum cabin speed increased by 1% and tonnage increased by 200. They think that it is not as good in comparison to the engines of similar rarity. Legendary parts. RA1 Heather. Energy consumption reduced to that of the Mandrake of 13. Power score reduced because the energy consumption was reduced. They're saying, whoa, for some reason it's unpopular. So to increase its popularity, no, as I mentioned before, it's because the Swarm exists. The Swarm is the Heather. They are the same gun, except the Swarm doesn't suck. It has a direct fire capability and near direct fire capability. It does more damage, fires more missiles, is harder to counter. It is just outright better than the Heather. The Heather the Heather's better than Mandrake. It's better than the Mandrake by far. It's great. It does 700 damage. The problem is the fucking Swarm does 1800. So I don't know what you're doing here. Like the highest damage you can hit on Leviathan with 2 Swarms is in the neighborhood of 9,500 pre-perked. And post-perked, you can actually reach 10,000 damage against the Leviathan with the perfect shot with only 2. And by the way, you can have 3. But anyway, with only 2 Swarms, you can get nearly 10,000 damage on Leviathan. Heathers do 700 damage with the most perfect shot on a Leviathan. You're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 3k. So that's why you don't see the Heather. And that's against Leviathans. I know what you're thinking, but you can fire against regular people. Yeah, you can. And nobody has 3,000 life, so either way, right? Heather, that's why the Heather isn't being used right now. It's not that it's not necessarily good, it's that something was released that was basically 4 times better. Retcher, durability increased. Retcher buff after years. Mass increased comes with this durability buff. They're just saying that it just simply doesn't survive a long time. And yes, that's correct. 256 hit points is nothing. 343 is better. It's better. It's getting nearly 100 additional hit points. I'll take it. I will take that. But Retchers are extremely vulnerable. And due to the fact that Retchers spread their damage in the way that they do, they're actually in the modern meta. They've not been meta for a while now. I used to consider them to be an A-tier weapon, but because of the way that newer weapons are coming out and are so dominant in the damage and accuracy that they deal, the Retcher keeps falling off. Though having more hit points is good. I don't mean like falling off your build. I mean it's falling off because even though the Retcher used to boast incredible unmatched damage, that damage has been matched and surpassed. No joke. Like, weapons now do so much more than the Retcher does, it's not even funny. Do I think the Retcher's still good? Yes. Is the Retcher still good against PvE? Yes. But in reality, most PvE, if you're fighting, let's say, the PvE Leviathans or something, you're obviously using the Swarm to take them out. And if you're fighting standard PvE, the Retcher's still good. The Retcher's still good against standard PvE. But other than that, like, the Retcher definitely needs love. So Fukubari. Fukubari is the legendary crossbow that heats up parts that, of course, required the nerf of the Destructor because the Destructor was too good, and so they split the Destructor's effect with the Fukubari, and so they're buffing the Fukubari. Projectile speed increased by 20%, spread reduced by 20%, and increase in spread after firing reduced by 25%. They're doing this because of lack of efficiency, because in the hands of a human being, the Fukubari is dog shit. If you're a human being and you're using the Fukubari, the gun isn't good. It's not that you're not good. Don't worry, I'm actually not insulting the Crossout player base for once. I'm actually saying the Fukubari just isn't good. Because the idea is you've got to fire 3 shots that take about 75% of a second. So you have to be able to maintain a shot over an angle, over an arc, over a distance, leading your shot for 0.75 seconds or so, and all your shots have to land on the same part in order to do what any other gun does with one left mouse button click once over 0.1 seconds. So that's the reason why the Fukubari is getting buffed. On Leviathans, Fukubari is just amazing, because the AI doesn't miss. Moving forward, No Thung, same thing as the Gungnir. Move to Cryo, freezes by 2%. The end. Same thing I said about the Gungnir, I'm going to say about the No Thung. It's a change. You will do more damage against some parts, less damage against others. Will most likely not change diddly shit against weapons. Theoretically, the only thing that I can think of is and this is funny because this is Leviathan Clan Wars, I can see the no thong being valuable in Leviathan Clan Wars now. If combined with a Leviathan that's using cryo. So if you're all using cryo, the no thong can maintain the cooling on your opponent while the your Leviathan's narwhals are reloading. I can see that, but I don't see very many other changes for the no thong. That's just the way I see it. Could be wrong, but I doubt it. Fortune added the perk. Finally, the Fortune has a perk. By the way, I've never thought that the perk of a weapon being the weapon functions this way is a perk. That's not a perk. That's just like. Let me give you an example. If the Helicon's perk was it fires 3 rockets, you wouldn't accept that. That's not a fucking perk. That's not a perk, right? So they knew that when they created the Helicon. And so it's like the base ability of the Helicon, just the weapon itself, no perk, is it fires 3 rockets of differing types. Bullet, heating, blast, right? That's just what it does. And they knew that that's not a perk, and they gave the Helicon a perk saying that if the weapon travels over X period of time or over X distance or whatever the fuck, it does bonus damage, right? So the actual perk of the Helicon is bonus damage. The Fortune has never had a perk before right now. The Fortune's perk used to be, it launches bouncy balls. Fucking, that's how the weapon works. That's not a perk. So they decided to give it a perk. As the projectile travels over the first 200 meters, the blast radius gradually increases up to 30%. So after 200 meters, the blast radius of the Fortune is now actually good. And the damage is also good. So blast radius is increased by 30%. And wait. No. Is it damage 30%, blast 15? Uh-oh. Hold on. Hold up. Wait a minute. Hold up. I gotta find out, because every now and again, you know, they say some interesting things. Yes, I'm checking in-game real fast to see what the Fortune do, because that's interesting. Just want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. Yep, the damage is the one that increases by 30%. Wow. Okay, so that's very good. So now the Fortune no longer is worse than the Doom. The Doom was doing the same damage or more than the Fortune, and it's an epic. So long story short, you get up to 30% bonus damage if they're over 200 meters away, and 15% blast radius. Projectile lifetime increased from 8 to 12 seconds, and the rate of fire increased by 12.5 seconds. 12.5%. Remember, they nerfed the rate of fire of the Fortune. This was brought down. I forget which patch, sorry, but they're basically undoing their rate of fire nerf that they themselves put on this thing. So, Fortune, big buffs. Cool. Compiler. So this is the only turret cannon in the game that didn't catch a nerf because it's for sale in the Battle Pass currently. And this weapon that's for sale in the Battle Pass is getting a buff. Reduced recoil, minimum spread reduced, maximum spread reduced, increase in spread after firing reduced. They want this thing to be super accurate until the Battle Pass ends. Because when the Battle Pass ends, I guarantee you that they're going to find this weapon's too efficient. It's just too good at what it does. We're nerfing it. But that's for the future. Future you is going to get fucked. Current you, who's already purchased the Battle Pass, enjoy your buffs to the compiler that costs real life United States dollars. Enjoy those buffs until it no longer costs you real life United States dollars. The Amugi. This is your multi-shot small young Wang. Legendary Wang. That is small. Projectile speed reduced by 10%. This is actually a pretty big nerf. The Amugi's projectile velocity is so high that you can actually sling these nuts across the entire battlefield. And having someone trip over your balls is hilarious. But apparently they're reducing the projectile speed. You can probably still make it across maps, and actually this will make it better in some instances where you're going to be able to land shots into people's spawns instead of overshooting the map. Reload time increased from 6 to 7 seconds. So originally it was treated like a cannon with a decent reload. They're nerfing that because apparently people don't like it being like having people trip over their balls. Impulse reduced by 3 times, which is to say impulse has been cut by into 1/3 of what it was. That is incredible nerf. So impulse is what happens when it hits people's build, and one of the things was you could flip people over with this originally. If you fired at the right angles and they hit the balls at the wrong angles and they tripped over your nuts, they would flip over entirely. And this is like really wide builds, so you could do this to a lot of people. And this combined with the acceleration of the projectile's attraction, which also got a nerf, meant that they would be fired at the ball would come at them, accelerate into their wheel while they're turning, and lift them off the ground. And then because you're firing 8, because the idea is you would have 2 Amugis, each of them firing, so all 8 balls would cause them to flip over, and you'd be able to get free shots on their tummy. They're tired of that. They're nerfing it, and the perk's radius was reduced by half a meter as well. Long story short, Amugi nerfed because you no longer exchanging United States dollars for it. Kaiju nerf because you're no longer exchanging United States dollars for it. Shot charge time increased from 3.5 to 4 seconds, so it takes longer to charge up. There's nothing that reduces charge time yet. No, please note, I'm saying yet. I guarantee you, some fucking dev is going to hear me say this and be like, wait a minute, we can sell a module in a pack that reduces weapon charge time? It's coming. Anyway, 4 seconds says 3.5, so it takes longer to get your charge, and you can only hold it for half a second shorter. Charbitus. This has been nerfed. It is no longer the rear half of a vehicle, but is now the rear quarter of a vehicle. This means that being just behind the cabin of an opponent does not activate the Charbitus perk. You got to be directly behind them. Griffin perk buff. So if ever you wanted to hate drones, guess what? It is better than all the other drone cabin again. The Griffin is now the best drone cabin in the game because it now reduces the recharge time of modules and drones by 5% per second, every second, as long as its perk is active, and its perk is active for like 10 seconds or something. So it's basically like a 50% recharge of your modules and drones on the cabin itself, in addition to hiding from radars. Woo! God damn. Griffin Buff, which is, by the way, really interesting. Again, I hate to keep bringing up Leviathan Clan Wars, but it is a thing for Leviathan Clan Wars now, because people use certain modules and drones, such as the Barrier 9. Hippogriff. Perk active time reduced from 7 to 6 seconds. Hippogriff is the cabin that allows you to see through walls, and they don't want you to see through walls for 7 seconds. They want you to see through walls for 6 seconds, but have this shit cool down in 12 seconds instead of 25. So you're actually seeing through walls a whole lot more. This is the Widowmaker. I'm using a goddamn reference from Overwatch, the Widowmaker cabin. Whaler Nerf because it's too good. Medium cabins that go 80 kilometers an hour? No! So now it goes 76 kilometers an hour, and the active time has been reduced by 2 seconds. Why? Because everyone keeps driving around on Whaler bricks, shooting people, and they makes them mad. Satori. This was the cabin that was released in the previous Battle Pass. Told you it was very strong. Too strong, in fact, because, as I said in the previous Battle Pass, they're going to nerf this once it's no longer for sale. I told you that! I said it. Someone find the video, clip that shit. I said that shit. I said they were going to nerf this after the Battle Pass is no longer for sale. Like, immediately. By the way, that Battle Pass, no longer for sale. Here's your Satori nerf. Why? The bonus is too good. You're getting it too fast. It's lasting too long. So now it's harder to get the bonus by 0.5 seconds, and it resets literally 1 second faster. And that's a problem. But whatever. Mainframe. You don't own this yet. Most people. But the mainframe is getting nerfed. It's the new heaviest cabin in the game. It's the one that has multiple perk stages, etc. They're making it not possible for you to damage yourself to get the perk. Honestly, I all I can do is shrug. Who gives a shit? It's the like the amount of damage you'd have to deal yourself to get the perk up is it's kind of pointless. I mean, this is a nothing burger nerf. It's not really a nerf. It is, but it isn't. Like, oh, you could rift off 3,000 hit points and then immediately get 30% more cabin durability? That's retarded. That's retarded. 10,000. Do the math. Let's assume that you rift off 3,000 hit points of your build. Assuming that you have 10,000 hit points. Let's assume you broke 10,000 on a regular build. Somehow. Let's assume you did. You just lost 30% of your hit points to get 30% more durability. Yes, I understand it will give you cabin power. Yes, I understand that it will give you the 15% to your bonus to your damage. But that's stupid. Obviously, just stack it normally. It's not going to matter. Moving forward, Fin Whale perk no longer affects spread stability. Oh, the high demand to the engine of the perk. Oh, the spread bonus has additional effect on efficiency. Oh, we wanted to sell modules that have spread efficiency, is what they meant to say. The modules that are for sale, the ones that do spread efficiency, those ones at the top that I went over first, they wanted to sell those for money. They accidentally gave it to us on the fin whale, so they stripped it off the fin whale and they're selling it to us for money. Pilgrim, Photon, and Nova cabins buffs. All 3 cabins not getting enough love. They're not being played enough. They're all getting buffed. Effective mass and acceleration reduced by 10%. This is to bring these cabins in line with the other medium cabins, by the way. So all the cabins you were noticing that were catching nerfs, for example, the Whaler, BWC Warrior caught a nerf earlier, things like that. Well, the Pilgrim, Photon, and Nova, the reason why that they aren't seen very much is because of the fact that even though they're big, heavy cabins, just like those other ones, they accelerate slow. They're basically, they used to be the heavy cabin variant of medium cabins. That's what it used to be. And that they were built, they were constructed, they were put into the game under that mindset. But since that mindset, they decided to make cabins just as heavy, if not heavier, larger, like the BWC Warrior and things like that, and make them faster. And so they're like, whoopsie, these cabins are literally smaller versions of the heavier cabins, but but their movement profile just sucks ass. So they're buffing that. They're making it so you can carry more stuff, and then you're faster as you carry more stuff, which is good. All shotguns increase the projectile's radius. So what you didn't know is, and this is even true when shotguns and machine guns were hit scan, those projectiles have a radius. It was usually somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 pen. Sorry, not 1 pen. It was like a half a pen. So they're increasing the radius so that you can actually hit things with your fucking shotguns. All protective fields. This is going to be hell, by the way. All protective fields. Vulnerability to blast damage reduced by half. So right now, blast damage used to deal double damage. You just did additional double damage to barriers. Now you don't. You deal 50% bonus damage to barriers. This is important, because the Nova Aegis Barrier, Atom, Morta, all of those protective fields are now going to last significantly longer against blast damage. And it's gonna be an issue in, interestingly enough, Levy Clan Wars, because the idea is that couple this with the change to the Griffin, where you can have someone just running around dropping barriers super fast. It's going to be very difficult to crack those protective fields. I mean, if you had someone dedicated to cracking those barriers, believe it or not, originally you would use some. I mean, clearly it's not going to stop a swarm, but people are countering swarms with sparks now anyway. But the idea is it's not going to stop that, but people would default back to the Retcher, which thankfully is catching a buff, but not a damage buff. But it's going to take, more shots to pop those barriers. It's going to be interesting. I for one, am glad, because I do run a lot of builds with the Aegis Prime, and the Aegis has been getting popped way too quickly. So I think that that's good for the Aegis. That's bad for the Nova, ironically. The Nova, you want the barrier to be broken so that you can get your perk up. If the barrier doesn't get broken, you actually have to wait a long time for that. So whatever. Barrier 9, massive buff, atom shields, shrug, mortar projectile. It means that the projectile isn't as easily destroyed, but nobody's actually shooting the mortar down. I've seen that. Waltz and Helicon buff added additional weld points. Other things have been added. They changed the logic of perks that depend on travel distance. Now they stack based on the distance traveled in space and do not depend on the armored car's speed. I don't know what the shit that means. Ish. I think I know what that means. I think that means that you must actually travel the distance in order to get the perk bonus. So the idea is, a long time ago, one of the things you could do is you could create a fusion and have one person bring a bunch of Aegises and a cheetah, flip them on their side, and have the wheel spin. And as the wheel spun, then it would charge the cheetah perk. And the cheetah perk would then refresh your Aegises. And so you could be stationary and constantly get perk bonuses. That's what they're changing. So this is saying that you don't get that any longer. You don't get that because your wheel's spinning. You have to actually physically travel the effing distance to get it to work. That's what they're saying. That's not a minor other change. That's a huge change. So you got to stay mobile in order to get your perks working. I'm fine with that, but still interesting. Interface changes. If there's no challenges left, it's no longer displayed. Players are no longer your friends, blah, blah, blah. Replaced with in-game, etc., etc. Search filter and some other changes. Anything interesting? They updated the Avenger 57 module, and they added a special effect for commit projectiles stuck in the ground. Neat. anything here. Artillery scope transparency, made an impossible blueprint, Spider-Legs hologram. Okay, there you go. Changes are in. What do you guys think is the most interesting? Is it that they're nerfing everything that was no longer for money and they're buffing everything that can be bought with money? Maybe. Maybe. Who knows? Interesting. There it is. Go buy yourself the light edition and obtain your new pay-to-win module that's only for Leviathans, effectively. Hope you guys enjoyed this, me going over these patch notes. If you like it, give a like. If you dislike it, please don't hit the dislike button. It stops people from seeing my videos. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead. Slap whatever you want. Do as you do. Thank you for joining me for these, Jesus Christ, near 45 minutes. I'm going to let you guys go. But, yeah. See you in the wasteland, folks. Peace.